Level 1. The level where you find out there's nobody to ask. You have $1,000 and a question, and you go looking for someone to ask it. The question is small. It's about whether to open a certain kind of account, and whether the thing your job offers is worth doing, and what the words on the form actually mean. It is not a hard question. Somewhere in the world, there are teenagers who know the answer. You go through your family in your head, one by one, the way you'd go through a phone list. Your father worked for 31 years, hands, back, early mornings, never missed a day in a decade. Retired with a pension that got restructured and a house he refinanced twice for reasons that made sense at the time. He does not know the answer. Your mother ran the money in that house, every week, on paper, in a book with a rubber band around it. She could stretch $140 further than any accountant alive. She knows exactly what everything costs. She does not know the answer either, because the answer is about a category of money she has never once had. An uncle who did well for a while. A cousin who talks confidently about things. You get partway through composing the text and you stop, because you already know how that conversation goes, and it doesn't end with the answer. It ends with advice that's 40 years old delivered with total certainty. You sit there with the phone in your hand, and it lands on you. You are the first one. Not the first to work hard. Everybody on that list worked harder than you ever have. You're the first one who has ever had a question like this, which means there is nobody above you to ask. Which means every single thing from here you are going to learn from strangers on the internet, and hope you pick the right strangers. That's the level, not the $1,000. Here's the thing you have to get right immediately, because if you get it wrong, the whole rest of your life is poisoned by it. You are not the smart one. That story is going to be offered to you at every level from here, by other people and by your own head, and it is false, and it is corrosive, and accepting it will cost you your family. Your father was not less intelligent than you. Your father made 30 years of decisions without a piece of paper that nobody handed him either. He was told to buy the house. He was told the pension was safe. He was told that a man who works does fine, and that was true when he was told it. And then it quietly stopped being true, and nobody sent a letter to the people it stopped being true for. Every person on that list was operating without information, not without intelligence. And the information is not hidden. It's just never distributed downward. It moves through families the way a surname does. And if it isn't in yours, you have to go and get it yourself, alone, at a kitchen table, at 11 at night, with a form open on a laptop and nobody to check your work. So you do the thing that starts everything. You open a browser at 11 at night, and you type a question into it that a child of a wealthy family would simply ask at breakfast. The answers come back in a language written for someone who already knows. Every explanation assumes a prior explanation you never got. You read one, then a second one that contradicts it, then a third by a man who is clearly trying to sell you something, and you can't tell what yet. You keep a note on your phone with words in it you had to look up. You figure it out. It takes 11 days of reading. You get one thing slightly wrong, and you fix it 2 years later. You don't have savings at $1,000. You have a question nobody in your bloodline has ever asked, and no one to ask it to. Level 2. The level where it lands wrong at dinner. You bring it up once. That's how you learn not to. It's a Sunday, and everyone's there, and you say something completely ordinary about the account you opened, in the tone of a man sharing a small piece of news, and the table does something you weren't expecting. It goes quiet. Not hostile, not angry, just a beat of air where there wasn't one before. Somebody makes a joke. Somebody says, "Look at you." Your father says that's good, that's smart, and moves the conversation somewhere else. And the moving is gentle and deliberate, and it is the most information you will ever receive about your new position in that room. Your uncle says something like, "Careful they don't take it all in fees." He's not being unkind. It's the only sentence he has for the situation, and it comes from a real thing that happened to somebody he knew in 1980-something. And everyone nods, because it's the only sentence anybody at the table has. You drive home turning it over, and you turn it over for a week. Here's what happened, and it takes years to see clearly, so take it now. You didn't say anything wrong, but every word you said landed in a room where money has exactly one meaning, and the meaning is worry. In that house, money is what there wasn't enough of. Money is the sound of the argument in the hallway when you were 9. Money is a subject you approach the way you approach a dog you don't know. And you just brought money to that table in a completely different accent. Money is a thing you plan with. Money with a future tense. To you, it was a small piece of news. To the room, it sounded like a man announcing he's leaving. That's level 2. And it's the beginning of the real cost of this journey, which was never financial. You stop bringing it up. Not out of shame, out of care. You learn to answer questions about work in the register everyone shares. Fine. Busy. Same as always. And here is what nobody warns you about, which is that the silence you just adopted will last 20 years. It starts as consideration and becomes distance so gradually that you never see the day it changes. Meanwhile, you keep going, privately, badly. You make real mistakes at this level, and you make them alone. You put money somewhere you shouldn't because a stranger on the internet was confident. You pay a fee for 2 years without knowing you're paying it. Nobody catches these for you, because catching them requires somebody above you who has seen it before, and there isn't one. Every family with money has a person who says, "Careful, not that one. Your cousin did that, and it went badly." You don't have that person, so your tuition is higher. You will pay more to learn the identical lesson than a man whose father explained it in a driveway when he was 17, and that is not a metaphor. It's an actual number of actual dollars. And it's one of the ways this is harder for you, and nobody counts it anywhere. You don't have a plan at this level. You have a private project and a table you can't discuss it at. Level 3, the level where you say no to family. The ask comes, and it isn't unreasonable. It's a few $1,000s. It's for something real. The person asking has helped you before, in ways that mattered, at times when you had nothing, and the debt between you is not the kind that gets written down anywhere. And you have it. That's what makes it hard. For the first time in your life, somebody in your family needs money, and you actually have the money, and the not having was always the reason before, and now the reason is gone. You know how this goes if you say yes. You know because you've watched it happen in this family, to other people. It won't come back, not out of malice, just out of the ordinary physics of a life with no margin. And it won't be the last one, because a person who says yes becomes the address these requests get sent to, and requests scale to capacity, forever. The conversation happens in a kitchen, standing up, which is how the important ones always happen in that family. Nobody sits down for these. They come at the end of a visit, near the door, in the last 4 minutes, phrased as though it just occurred to them, when in fact it is the reason for the visit, and both of you know it. You say no. Or you say a version of no. You give some, less than asked, and you say the rest isn't possible right now. And that sentence is not true, and everybody in the conversation knows it isn't true. That's the level, not the money. The lie you had to tell to protect a thing you can't explain. Because you cannot say the real sentence. The real sentence is, I am building something that requires this money to stay exactly where it is. And it will take 15 years. And at the end of it, I will be able to help everyone in this room in a way that a few $1,000s today cannot. That sentence is true, and it is completely unsayable, because to the person in front of you it sounds precisely like a man with money explaining why he won't share it, which is the oldest and most familiar sound in the world. The temperature changes. Not a rupture. A degree or two, permanently. And here's what you carry out of that conversation, which is the actual weight of being first. There is no version of this where you don't disappoint someone. Say yes to every ask, and you never accumulate anything. And in 20 years, you'll be exactly as unable to help as everyone else. And your entire margin will have been absorbed one reasonable emergency at a time. Say no, and you protect the thing, and you pay for it in small permanent degrees of temperature with people you love. Every first person in every family faces this, and almost nobody talks about it, because both doors make you look bad, and there is no third door. You choose the long one. You choose it knowing what it costs. You don't get to feel good about it. You sit in the car afterward for a while before you start it. What you don't know standing in that kitchen, and could not know, is that this exact no is the reason you will be able to say yes to something much larger in 11 years. The no is not the opposite of generosity. It's the deposit on it. Nobody will ever see the connection, including the person in front of you, including you, until it happens. You don't have wealth at this level. You have a decision that will look either wise or unforgivable, depending entirely on what happens over the next 15 years. Level 4, the level where you become a foreigner. Somewhere in here, without deciding to, you start seeing things. You visit and you notice the rent. You run the arithmetic on your mother's building in your head, automatically, the way you now run arithmetic on everything. And you realize she has paid for that apartment 4 times over and owns nothing. and this will continue until she dies. You notice the rate on the car loan in the driveway and what it means across 6 years. You notice the insurance nobody ever shopped, the fee on the account, the check cashing place on the corner that charges 4% to turn a paycheck into money, which is a tax on not having a bank, which is a tax on being poor, sitting right there on the corner you grew up on. You drove past it 10,000 times. You never once saw it. You go in there once, on a visit, to get change for something. There's a line at 4 in the afternoon. Everybody in it is working. That's the part that stays with you. Nobody in that line is idle. They're all coming off shifts or heading to them, and each of them is about to pay 4% of a day's pay for the crime of not having an account, and it takes 11 seconds a person. And nobody says anything, because this is simply what Friday costs. You see the whole machine now. You can't unsee it. And you're standing inside it, at a kitchen table, eating. This is the loneliest level, and here's why. You have not become richer than your family yet. Not meaningfully. What's happened is that you became fluent in a language nobody here speaks. So now you sit at every gathering silently translating, and there is nobody to compare notes with. You try, once or twice, carefully. You suggest the insurance thing to your mother. You mention that the rate on the car might be worth a look. And what comes back isn't gratitude. It's a small defensiveness, and you understand it instantly, because what you actually said underneath the words was, "You've been doing this wrong." She has managed money with total competence under impossible conditions for 40 years. She is better at it than you will ever be, in the conditions she had. And here comes her kid with a new vocabulary, gently informing her that the way she has lived is suboptimal. You stop suggesting things. You start quietly doing them instead, where you can, without announcement, because that's the only form that doesn't wound. This is also the level where you get angry, and the anger matters, and it matters that you point it correctly. You're not angry at them. You're angry that none of it was hard. The insurance thing took 11 minutes. The account fee took 1 phone call. These are not sophisticated instruments. They're small pieces of ordinary information, and their absence has cost this family, across 2 generations, an amount of money that would have changed everything about it. Nobody was hiding any of it. Nobody delivered it either. That's the actual shape of it. Nobody conspired against your family. Something worse happened. Nobody thought about your family at all. You don't have distance at this level. You have a second language and nobody to speak it with. Level 5. The level where they start asking you. It reverses without any announcement. Someone calls with a question, then somebody else. Small ones at first, practical. What do you think about this? Do you know how this works? Should I sign this? You are 30-something, and people who changed your diapers are asking your opinion about money, and you feel 2 things at once, and they do not fit together. The first is pride, and it's uncomplicated, and you should let yourself have it. The second is vertigo, because a family is supposed to have a direction to it, information flowing downward, older to younger, and yours just reversed, and everybody can feel it and nobody says it. Your father asks you something, and there's a half second before he asks where you can see him deciding to ask, and that half second contains everything about what it costs a man to ask his kid a question like that. The first real one comes on a weeknight. Your father calls about a letter he got, and he reads it to you slowly over the phone, the whole thing, including the parts that don't matter, because he can't tell which parts don't matter, and that's precisely why he called. You listen to a man who taught you to drive read a document out loud that he doesn't understand, and there's a small apology in his voice that shouldn't be there, and you have to sit down. You answer carefully. You answer in a way that does not sound like knowing. That's a skill, and it takes years to learn, and it's one of the most important things in this entire video. You learn to deliver information without the posture of the person delivering it. You say, "I read something about this." You say, "Someone told me." You say, "I might be wrong," but you take your own authority out of the sentence so that the person receiving it doesn't have to pay anything to accept it. Because by now you understand that the hard part of information reaching somebody is never the information. It's the price of admitting they didn't already have it. Then the bigger version arrives, and this is what the level was built for. Something actually goes wrong for someone. A layoff, a diagnosis, a car that's gone, and a job that requires one. It is not a want. It's the thing you have been building toward for years without ever letting yourself say it out loud. And you can just handle it. Not painlessly. It costs real money, and it sets your own timeline back by more than a year. But you handle it in an afternoon. And nobody has to walk into a check cashing place or put it on a card at 29%, and the thing that would have become a 5-year spiral for this family is instead a bad month. You didn't say no this time. You said no at level 3 so that you could say yes here. That's what the earlier no was for. You couldn't explain it then, and you can't explain it now, and nobody will ever connect the two events, and that's fine, because the connection was never for them. You don't have money at this level. You have the first thing this family has ever had, which is somewhere for a bad month to land. Level 6. The level where you feel guilty for winning. This one surprises you, because it arrives exactly when things are going well. The accounts are real now. 6 figures, climbing on their own. The second worker doing his shift while you sleep. By any measure available, you've done the thing. And you feel like a traitor. It shows up in small ways first. You catch yourself downplaying at family gatherings. You say things are tight when things are not tight. You keep the car longer than you need to, and you tell yourself that's discipline. And some of it is discipline, and some of it is that a new car in that driveway would say something out loud that you are not willing to say. You are performing a smaller life for people who love you. It's exhausting. You're not sure when it started. Here's what's underneath it, and it needs saying plainly because nobody says it. You did better than the people who raised you, and some part of you believes that's a betrayal. Not a rational belief. A weather system. It says who do you think you are? It says your father worked harder than you have ever worked in your life and ended with less. And there is no arithmetic in which you come out the deserving one. It says the people who stayed are the loyal ones and you left, even though you never physically went anywhere. And there's a specific version of this that hits hardest, so name it. You start worrying that they think you're better than them. Mostly they don't. Some of them do, a little, sometimes, in ways they would deny. And here's the trap. The more you shrink to reassure them, the more the shrinking becomes the lie in the room, because everyone can tell they're being managed, and being managed feels worse than being outpaced. The way out isn't shrinking, and it isn't announcing. It's being exactly the same person you always were, same jokes, same affection, same willingness to be wrong about things, and letting the money be a fact about you instead of a subject. You get better at that over years. You never get all the way good at it. And then you do the thing at this level that matters more than any of the guilt. You start telling the younger ones. Not lecturing. When a niece or a nephew or a cousin's kid hits the age where it would actually land, you have the conversation your father couldn't have with you because he didn't have it to give. You explain the boring thing. The account. The fee. The rate. The reason time matters more than amount. It goes badly the first time. You're standing by a cooler, and you say too much at once, and you can see the kid's eyes do the thing your eyes used to do, which is glaze at the exact moment a person starts sounding like an adult with a lesson. So you cut it down. Next time it's one sentence. Start now, even with nothing, because the time matters more than the amount. That's all. You say it once and change the subject, and you say it again a year later, and somewhere in there it goes in. Most of them don't listen. One of them does. That's why this level exists. You were the first person in this family who had to go find the information alone from strangers. And you are the last one who ever will. And that ends with you, deliberately, in a slightly awkward conversation with a 22-year-old at a barbecue. You don't have success at this level. You have a debt you can't pay upward, so you're paying it sideways and down. Level 7. The level where you can't tell anyone. The number crosses something serious, and there is nobody on earth you can say it to. Not your family, for every reason in this video. Not your friends, most of whom are standing where your family was standing, and the sentence would land the same way it landed at that dinner table 20 years ago. Not the people at work. And not people with money either, actually, because to them the number is unremarkable, and saying it out loud would only mark you as someone who is impressed by it, which marks you as new, which you are. So the largest financial event of your life happens entirely inside your own skull. You try once, softly, with a friend. You watch the sentence not land. You shorten it. They say that's great and mean it, and ask if anybody wants another drink. You go home and you're not upset, exactly. You just understand that every milestone from here will be like this. Uncelebrated it. Unwitnessed. A statement on a Tuesday and a slight ringing in your ears. That's the price nobody quotes at the beginning. Not the frugality. Not the 15 years. The silence. Because here's the structural problem, and it belongs specifically to being first. A man who inherits money is surrounded by people who understand exactly what he has. It's ordinary in his world. His father knows, his brother knows, his friends from school know, and none of them require managing. And the number is just a fact everybody in the room already holds. You built yours out of a family where money means worry. So you carry it into every room alone. And there is no room anywhere on earth where it is simply ordinary. Up is foreign, down is loaded. You are between two countries, a citizen of neither, and you did it to yourself on purpose over 20 years, and you'd do it again. The loneliness is real. It is the actual tax on being first. It does not go away at a higher number. But notice the other thing you can't say, and sit with it, because it's the one that matters. You can't say that you're proud, and you are. You are proud in a way that has no outlet and no audience. And it sits in your chest at family dinners while you say things are fine, busy, same as always. There's a moment at one of those dinners. Your mother says something about how she never had to worry about you. She means it as a small thing. She's talking about school, or about you being an easy kid. And you sit there holding the actual size of it, and you say something ordinary back. You almost tell her. That's the thing. You get right up to the edge of it, the whole sentence assembled and ready. And then you look at her face and you understand exactly what would happen if you said it. She would be happy, genuinely, immediately happy. And then, about 4 seconds later, she would begin the arithmetic. About what she has, about what she doesn't, about whether she should have done something differently in 1994. She would carry that home, and she would carry it for months, and it would cost her something real, and it would buy you a single evening of being known. So you don't say it. You ask her about her sister instead. That's as close as it comes. That's the entire celebration, delivered across a table by a woman who will never know what she just said, and it turns out to be enough. You don't have recognition at this level. You have the one thing you built that nobody will ever congratulate you for. Level 8. The level where the pattern breaks. $1 million is not the event. You know that by now. It happens on a Wednesday, the way these things do, and you look at the number and you wait for the feeling, and the feeling doesn't come, because the feeling was never in the number and hasn't been since level 1. You go to a family thing that weekend. Nobody knows. You eat the same food off the same plates in the same house. And somebody asks how work is, and you say fine, busy, same as always, and it's true in the way it has been true for 20 years. The real one arrives later, somewhere ordinary, and it isn't about you at all. It's that the sentence changed tense. Your entire life, the sentence was, nobody in this family has money. Present tense. Permanent. A description of a category of people you belong to by birth. Now the sentence is, nobody in this family had money. Past tense. And the tense changed because of a decision made by one person at a kitchen table with a form he didn't understand. That's what you actually broke. Not a ceiling. A pattern. Here's the arithmetic that makes 20 years worth it, and it has nothing to do with your retirement. The kid who comes after you starts where you ended. They will not have to find this from strangers. They will have somebody to ask, which is the exact thing you went looking for at level 1 and could not find. They will make their mistakes with a hand on their shoulder instead of alone in a kitchen at midnight. They get the driveway conversation at 17. And the compounding that matters is not in your account. It's there. A person who starts at 0 with a map arrives somewhere a person who starts at 0 without one cannot reach in a lifetime. You became the map. There is now a map in this family permanently, and it doesn't get lost. Because you wrote it down and said it out loud at barbecues to people who half listened. Now look back at the list of names from level 1. Your father, 31 years, retired with less than he was promised. Your mother, running a household on nothing and making it look like enough. The uncle. The cousins. Everyone you scrolled past looking for one person who might know. You were never smarter than them. That story was offered to you at every level, and you refused it. And refusing it is the reason you can still sit at that table. They were operating without a piece of paper. You went and got the paper. That is the entire difference. It is not a moral difference, and anybody who tells you otherwise is selling you a story about deserving that exists to make comfortable people comfortable. And there's a last thing, because this video would be dishonest without it. You do not get to bring everyone with you. You helped where you could. You caught the bad months. You had the conversations. But some people on that list are going to end their lives in roughly the position they started in, and you will have the money to have changed that, and you will not have been able to, because the thing standing between them and different was never a check. You carry that. It doesn't resolve. That's what being first is. Somewhere right now, Someone has $1,000 and a question, and they are scrolling through the names in their family looking for one person who might know the answer, and they're about to find out there isn't one, and the finding out will feel like a personal deficiency. It isn't. It's a starting position. It's the same starting position every first person in every family in history has had. The information they're looking for is not hidden and never was. It just was never sent downward into their house. They can go and get it. Alone. Badly. Over years. From strangers. And then it's in the house. And it never leaves again. You are the same person as everyone who raised you. You just went and got the map.